Hey guys, and welcome to my video. Today I'm going to be doing a video on flight attendant training / ground school, as we call it in Australia. My name is Bree and I'm a flight attendant based in Australia. So if you aren't already subscribed, definitely click that subscribe button. This video was highly requested. It's been one of the most requested videos that I make. So I'm really excited to be doing this for you. There's a lot to cover when it comes to flight attendant training. So I've broken this video up into 3 parts. The first part, I'm going to be answering your questions that you've sent in. The second part, I'm going to be giving you guys some tips and tricks. And the third part, I'm going to be talking about what happens if you fail. And I actually failed one of my exams in flight attendant training, so definitely stick around to hear that story. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the flight attendant training that you get once you have been accepted for the job, and that training is with the airline that you've been accepted for. I'm not talking about courses that you can do or that type of training, but I'm talking about once you get accepted the job and you start training with the airline. Without further ado, let's get into the video. The first question is, how long does ground school go for? And personally, my ground school went for 5 weeks and 1 day, but it is really dependent on the airline and also what aircraft types you are flying on. For instance, I was only being taught on 1 aircraft type, so I think 5 weeks is on the shorter side of ground school, whereas some ground schools are a lot longer. Next question is, what is the schedule like? Well, luckily I actually have my schedule from when I did ground school 3 years ago. So it's got everything that happened. I'm obviously not going to share exactly what my schedule looked like for privacy reasons, but to give you a bit of an idea, most of the days were from Monday to Friday. There were some days where I had to come in on the weekends as well for certain trainings. It was usually from 8:30 to like 5, but there were some days where you would have to train from, like 7 p.m. to like 12 a.m. and things like that. I think they do this just to get you ready for shift work, because as a flight attendant, you don't work the normal 9 to 5, but your hours, are mixed up a lot. Next question is, how many exams do you have to do? I don't even know, let me count. So I've counted 25 exams / quizzes / assessments. So there's a lot of exams in those 5 weeks. So you definitely need to study a lot to be prepared for those exams. The next question is, do you get paid for training? I personally got paid for training. I know that some airlines don't pay and some do pay. So it is really dependent on the airline that you are working for. Another question is, do you have to travel to another state for training? I personally didn't have to travel anywhere for training. Training was all in my home base and I didn't have to stay in any accommodation. I just stayed at home, drove to training each day and then drove home. I do know in some airlines that some of the training facilities aren't in that state, so you might have to, go somewhere for a couple of weeks for those training facilities. Another question is, I've heard you get trained on how to do makeup. Is that true? No, that's probably like the biggest thing from the truth. You do get grooming standards that you have to adhere to, but you don't get trained on like how to put on your makeup or how to do your eyelashes or anything like that. The content of the training is mostly on safety, believe it or not. So what happens in certain situations on board an aircraft. So emergency procedures, fires, evacuations, ditchings, lots of things like that. So no, I did not get trained how to do my makeup. I had to figure that out myself. Another question, I'm so curious about the swimming part of the training. Do you really need to swim? Yes, yes you do. So before you get accepted to the job, you do have to do a swimming test, which means you have to, well, here in Australia anyway, you have to tread water for 3 minutes and you have to be able to swim 50 meters fully clothed. So you do those assessments before you even get accepted the job. Once you are in training in your airline, you do have to do swimming assessments. For instance, you have to show that you have competency in like pulling a life vest and inflating the life vest. Another thing you have to do is demonstrate your competency on a raft. Usually those assessments are done in like a swimming pool in an airline training facility. So yes, you do have to know how to swim. You can't wear floaties, unfortunately. Sorry guys. Next question is, what do they do for the service training? It's a good question. Personally, my service training was only for 1 week. So out of the 5 weeks, 1 week was service training. So what you actually see the flight attendants do on an aircraft, that was only 1 week of my training. The 4 other weeks were all safety related. Another question is, do you have to do like role plays and stuff? Yes, yes, you have to do role plays because you have to show your competency in being able to evacuate an aircraft in 90 seconds and inflate, your life vest and, things like that. So for those role plays, they are done in the classroom and also in a training facility on a fake aircraft. So you're given scenarios of what's happened. So say there's a fire, so you have to role play how you would put out that fire, what procedures you will follow, and things like that. What are some activities you had to do and was it hard? There was lots of activities that you had to do. You had to literally put out an actual fire. You have to do CPR on a dummy. You have to demonstrate how you would use certain equipment. So how you would use a PPE or handcuffs or a megaphone, oxygen, portable oxygen, lots of things like that you have to demonstrate, and you learn those things throughout the course. In training, you're not sitting down and listening to a lecturer the whole time, but you're actually practically doing activities as well. Okay, another question is, what is involved in the exams? So as I mentioned, there's a lot of exams that you do. All the exams are either multiple choice or they're practical exams that you have to demonstrate. So I had to do, maybe I can read out some of these exams. Safety equipment exam, flight deck window assessment, aviation medicine exam. So there's a lot of medication on the aircraft if medical incidents has happened on the aircraft. So we have to know what equipment we can use and what to do in certain medical situations. We have to show that. We have to do a service exam, overwing operation, raft assessment, fire extinguisher, all these different exams. Some are practical and some aren't. Another question was, how long after training did you start flying? So I finished training on a Monday and my first flight was on a Thursday. So just a couple of days. And yeah, I still remember that day when it was my first day and it was such an exciting time. Okay, and the last question is, I've heard that you have to do a test every year. Is that true? If so, what is it about? Yes, that is correct. In my personal experience, I have to do an exam every 6 months. So every 6 months there is a written exam. It's 40, 50 questions, and it's basically multiple choice, asking you questions about different equipment and different procedures and things like that. And then once a year I have to do a practical assessment where I have to demonstrate, how to put out fires on an aircraft, how to prep a cabin for landing, how to open certain windows and doors and things like that. So it's an ongoing thing you have to study for, which I wasn't prepared for. I didn't know that. So yeah, you have to do a test every 6 months and you can't fail those tests because then you lose your job. The next section, I'm going to be talking about tips and tricks to pass your ground school. So before you start your ground school, you are actually sent some sort of welcome pack. And in that welcome pack, there's things that you can study before even going to ground school. So I would recommend definitely studying those things. Next tip is, for your first day, get there 30 minutes early because you don't know how long it's going to take to get there. It might be in a weird thing at the airport where you have to go through things, or it might be a gated place where you don't have access. There's lots of things that you need to take into consideration. So definitely get there 30 minutes early. Personally, I did this. I decided to arrive 30 minutes early and I put in the address in Google Maps to take me there, and it took me to a place, but it actually wasn't the ground school. The ground school actually wasn't on Google Maps. So I was really lucky that I had that extra 30 minutes to figure out where exactly it was. And I did get there on time, which was good. Talking about time, every day arrive 15 minutes early to your classes. If you are on time, you're late, especially in the aviation industry. Another tip is to get enough sleep. Ground school is extremely hard. It's probably the hardest thing I've been through, and I've been through a few hard things. You need to get enough sleep because your brain won't be able to learn things as quickly if you're tired. Another tip is to expect to not have a social life. For those 5 to 8 weeks, just focus on ground school. Don't go out on the weekends. Just focus on what you're doing, because once those weeks are over, you can do those things afterwards. It is really important just to study and to focus on that content that you're learning. Another tip is to don't cheat, which is probably obvious. It's not a good thing to do in life in general, but especially here in Australia, CASA, the Civil Aviation Safety Authority, basically the governing body of aviation, they have a rule where if you do cheat, you can't sit an exam for 12 months with any other airline as well as your airline. So definitely don't cheat. Another tip is to study, which is very obvious, but just do it. Lock yourself in your room and just study. It will help you so much in the long run. And the last tip is to have fun. Ground school is fun. You're learning all this information. If you're passionate about aviation, this will ignite you. But yeah, just have fun, make friends with the people in your class, because you always have a special bond with those people that you went through flight attendant training with. So yeah, those are my tips and tricks. So I hope that those help you. Next, I'm going to talk about what happens if you fail. And this happened to me. So basically here in Australia, anything under 80% is a fail in the written tests, and you get 2 attempts in the practical, and if you fail both, then that's considered a fail. So basically I failed a written test. It was a multiple choice test, and I got 76 or 78%. So I just failed. And basically what happened was I got a letter from management saying that if I was to fail another test in anything, then I would be basically out. I would basically lose the job. That was a really stressful experience for me, because this was my dream job. It's kind of like when you're about to die and your life flashed before your eyes. It was kind of that experience with me with this job. So it gave me extra energy and extra gratefulness for this job. Going back to why I failed, I think a big reason was that I didn't do enough study, and I also had quite a few things going on in my life during ground school that was a bit distracting. For instance, I got engaged during ground school, so I think my mind was somewhere else for some part of it. But I'm actually really grateful for this experience, because it's helped me to prepare for those 6-month exams really well. I study for a month before now just to prepare for those exams, because I really don't want to fail. And another good thing that has come out of it is that I actually have another role within my company as part of the training department. So perhaps I'll talk about that in another video, or if you are interested, leave it in the comments so that I know that that's something you guys want me to talk about. But yeah, this is my video on ground school / flight attendant training. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, definitely, do the things, thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have any other questions about ground school, leave them in the comments. I'm very active in the comments, so I'll definitely answer them. I hope that this video was helpful, and yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. I always know I need water when my voice starts going. Love that. Okay, my camera almost died.